Hello, 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 and good Friday to you all. Thank you for coming into the Boilermaker Lounge. I'm Sam Sprunger, joined by Grant Flora. Grant, it's Friday. Not a ton of news, but it's Friday.
That is true. Man, such a great day. We just finished up finals at Indiana Wesleyan University yesterday, so uh, definitely a good feeling after that, just to be out of school now and not have that hanging over you. So it makes Friday even better.
Makes it a little bit more less stressful, at the very least, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Well, there's not a ton of news going on with I guess there's plenty of news going on with college basketball, but we're really, now that the window has closed to enter. There's still people going places. There are still people that have declared for the or gone into the portal. They don't have to be out of the portal by the 22nd. They just had to be into it. So there will still be some players going to new teams. We might be out of that window of new players coming into the portal. What what I was told was the window closes on the 22nd, but there are still people that will file in because they had their paperwork filed in time. They just didn't weren't announced or weren't told they were in it yet. But as long as they had the paperwork done, they can be in the portal, Grant. So we talked about the 22nd being a day where, yeah, we can kind of, after the 22nd's gone, we can breathe a sigh of relief. You still probably can, but there's about this much chance if you're looking at my fingers while we were watching. Slim to none. Slim's heading towards the door, though.
Yeah, I think right now the roster's set pretty good,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. Pretty slim chance, but you look at the roster; they're deep, but like most of the guys that you might consider potentially leaving to the portal, I think still have a relatively solidified role, even if it's a bench
Yep.
role. Like they know they're going to get some minutes and they're going to be solid as much as you can. Though obviously, we know Purdue is not a program that promises roles to anybody, whether it's a returning player or a new guy. Like everyone's going to have to earn their minutes. A guy like
Right.
Jakari Harris could pick up a bunch of DNPs next year if he doesn't have the kind of year of development that he's looking for. But the point is, like, it's not like he is expecting to pick up those DNPs. And I think that's enough for him to stick around at Purdue. And I think, again, some of those guys, if they were going to leave, I feel like probably would have done it by now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree. But at the same time, you can't say, well, that door's closed. They can't
Right.
leave. Technically, they could announce it. But the one thing that is out there still is Purdue has one roster spot available. Whether they leave it empty or if they go shopping with some recruits, high school guys that maybe they didn't talk to or haven't committed yet. Maybe they, hey, we've got a spot, would you? Or maybe they still add one from the portal. When we talked to Dustin Schutte last week, he mentioned that maybe Matt Painter and the coaching staff goes after somebody that isn't necessarily in the mix of now. And you and I have talked about that too, of maybe they don't go after somebody that would be in the mix now, but somebody that can help after next year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there are a lot of options
Yeah.
between high schoolers. Even like there have been some high school recruits that have decommitted from schools just in recent, like the past week or two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Purdue's going to go after any of those guys, but like there are guys there that are on the market that can make an impact next year. You still have transfers that are out there looking to make a decision, and you got the international pool as well. I mean,
Yeah.
more and more schools are dipping into that. We saw Purdue do it with Omer Meyer, but I know Duke's been potentially getting in around there, and some other schools have been like Illinois does that quite a bit. International pool is becoming more prominent just as the sport grows around the world. So just lots of different places that players can come from, and
Mm-hmm.
when you have an extra roster spot, I think it's just good for Purdue to be in that position where if they find a guy that fits something they want, whether it's a project sort of situation or they're building for the future, or someone that could impact winning next season, having a spot open this late in the game, it's kind of like you're waiting until some of those last guys maybe come in and the options are starting to slim down, but you still have a spot in your roster and you might be able to make a move later than people are expecting.
Yeah, and um there like you said, there are spots open. Sorry, I was looking for something. We talked about um another um international. Good lord. Stankovic. He's a Serbian, 20-year-old Serbian. He might not be in the game to go into now, to college now, but he might be available now. I haven't heard much other than back at the beginning of the month. I was chatting with a couple of people about him. Og Ognjen Stankovic. He's a Serbian 6'8" Serbian guard. So he's a big guy, but yet he's a guard. And I haven't heard anything other than just when he had signed with a representative that was exploring the college way, and I'd heard that Purdue was interested, but that was it. Was there some contact? We don't know. We just there's interest. They wouldn't mind having him, but that was well before Meyer came in, so maybe that's a bygone, or that chance is gone, or that interest may be gone. But there are still plenty of players that if we've got a roster spot, but we also don't have to just fill a roster or fill a spot for the sake of filling it. You don't want to dirty the locker room or the chemistry.
Yeah, and you don't just want to you got a spot and you just kind of randomly try and fill it. Like you definitely want to be deliberate with what you're doing. I think Purdue's doing that. Stankovic, I think would be an interesting add. Serbia has become one of the best countries of basketball in Europe and anywhere that isn't the United States. I mean, France may be the only country that consistently could be better, just with the likes of Wembanyama and those other professionals that are really good. But those Serbian guys, I feel like they're always good shooters. I don't know enough about Stankovic to say exactly how good of a shooter he is, but there's lots of good basketball that comes out of Serbia, so it'd be very interesting to see him come in. And I know, is it Sasha Stefanovic that's been active a little bit in that international recruiting?
He was the one that made the first and the biggest contact. Well, other than the former Boilermakers that Meyer played against, but he was the one that reached out and is that liaison between the coaching staff at West Lafayette and Meyer. So
yeah. So I don't know exactly what the odds are of Stankovic actually ending up at Purdue, but it's cool to see Purdue start branching out in some of those areas and see them going after good high school recruits, good international prospects. We're so used to them bringing in these massive classes of guys that maybe crack into the bottom half of the top 100 of ESPN in high school, and then guys that aren't even rated that high, and they develop so well, but you're still working with guys that are a work in progress. If they bring in some more talent like they did with Omer Meyer, it just is going to be really interesting to see what they can do with that. And I think it solidifies them as an upper echelon program in the country in NCAA college basketball, just being able to bring in some of these higher rated recruits, like the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the other blue bloods. I'm not saying they're bringing in these 5-star recruiting classes all the time, but to be able to bring in some of that talent, it just kind of helps solidify their brand a little bit more, if I'm being honest. And I think that's a good thing for Purdue.
Well, there's a couple of differences between let's pick Duke, just because that was the one that stuck out as soon as you said it, is the difference between Purdue and Duke. Yes, I know the national championships. I understand that part, but I'm talking how those coaches go in with the mindset when they're recruiting. When it comes to Purdue, Matt Painter looks for somebody that fits into the system. He doesn't change the system for the players necessarily. Now, will he tweak? Sure. Yeah, I mean, when you have 7'4" in 300 pounds in the low post, you're gonna run everything through that and have it develop elsewhere. But for the most part, I guess I'm talking about for the culture of the program. Duke, not anything against him. Mike Krzyzewski, you watched him morph from everybody graduates to all of a sudden slowly he got some that would leave early. Now at the end of his career, there were a lot of one and dones, and now John Schreier has done the same thing. You know, he's got a lot of one and dones, and they have a ton of McDonald's All Americans or 5-star recruits. Well, Matt Painter loves to have those 5-star recruits if he can get them, but they have to fit into what they're doing. And so I think that's why he goes for not necessarily lower recruits, but recruits that don't rank as high, because he knows, look, you fit into what we do. You have the mentality that you're going to work hard. The work ethic's there. We're going to have a good program because you're there working hard, rather than every year you've got to rebuild your roster.
Yeah, and you're talking about guys too that definitely are totally driven to win basketball games. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that your McDonald's All-Americans aren't driven to do that, but
No,
they're
not at
trying
all.
to build their careers and their resumes for the NBA draft. Like that's what most of those guys, their top priority is.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas these 4-star guys, they're still good basketball players, but they know that winning is kind of synonymous with their professional hopes. Like if they win basketball games, that's going to help build that resume. It's not going to be something that is going to be separate. It's really more mutual. And so I think that really fits into the Purdue culture well, that we have harped on about as something we love as Purdue fans, where they can come and win basketball games, and then it helps them further down the road, whether it's a professional career or just their careers outside of basketball. I think all of that feeds into that, and that's the culture and the program that Matt Painter has built and is continuing to build.
Well, I definitely am happy with what the coaching staff has done up to this point. I'm very, very optimistic. I mean, I'm literally sitting here going, man, it's only April. It's only
Yeah.
April. Come on, come on. Early October into the rest of the media days is kind of where we're in basketball season, when you're talking to players about the upcoming season, talking to coaches, and being able to chat with them. That's when you're like, yeah, this is really going to happen soon now, and it gets really exciting. We're 6 months away, man, or 5 months away, and it's driving me nuts. I've got a summer packed with stuff, and I'm like, yeah, let's get this going. But
Yeah.
it's definitely something that it's definitely not been like this. Even with Zach Edey coming back for his last year, Purdue, while they were in the top 5, they weren't. They were like, they should be good. But you also had a Braden Smith who was coming off of a freshman year where he made a lot of mistakes, and people were really critical of that. Now you've got him coming back for his senior year. He's going to be an All-American, preseason All-American. He probably, I'm not saying definitely, but probably will be the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year again. And then you have an All-American, All Big Ten player in Trey Kaufman-Renn. Then you have, by the way, you have one of the best shooters in the Big Ten. Like now, these guys are going to be ranked. Probably, I would be shocked not to see them number 1 or number 2 in the preseason. And I know preseason rankings don't matter, but when you have this expectation and you haven't added major pieces, that makes me extremely excited.
Yeah, and I think one big difference between 2 years ago and this year, as far as the preseason hype, 2 years ago, you were kind of banking on improvements from a lot of guys. Like you said, Braden Smith had a rough kind of end to his season. He had to clean it up and be more effective as a point guard, and he was, but you didn't know that going into the season. You needed Fletcher Loyer to be more consistent. You needed you didn't necessarily need this or expect this, but Trey Kaufman-Renn had a big improvement in the offseason, comes in as a great piece at the 4. Like all those things had to happen to supplement the supporting cast of Zach Edey, and that is what made them so good, was they were dangerous all the way around. Now, even I think if nobody improved, you look simply at the roster and you take the guys and the way they played this past season, Purdue is a really good team. Braden Smith, if he has a repeat of last season, It's phenomenal. Fletcher Lawyer, 13 points a game as a third option on last year's team. Maybe not even a third option this year with who they have. That's great. Whoever they play at the three is going to be solid. TKR, obviously his normal self, and then Oscar Clough and what he did at South Dakota State. If all those guys just play the exact same basketball that they played last season, I still think Purdue is one of the best teams in the country. Yeah. Then you add in the fact that they can develop, and you have guys like CJ Cox, Jakari Harris that can get a year of an off season and another season under their belts, and then this team starts to look really dangerous. But I think that's one of the big differences is they don't have to rely as much on development. Development's just going to kind of supplement and make them better even than what you might expect simply looking at the roster.
And we talked about what Tom Izzo said about the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores because of the big jump in their improvement. If they're going to improve, that's where you see the biggest jump in their improvement of their game at the college level is from their freshman year to their sophomore year. And it's because they have a year of college underneath their belt. Coming in as a freshman, they only knew what they knew from high school, so they had to acclimate themselves. They're good. You can see spurts, but they maybe hit a wall. But then that improvement from the freshman year to that sophomore year, that's another thing. CJ Cox, Jakari Harris, we both are high on both of those two. And they've got an offseason where they're going to potentially improve greatly compared to what they had, which makes it really exciting to know or to have. You also, Jack Benter, he redshirted, so technically he's a sophomore. There's improvement that's happening during that, and that's a guy that we don't talk about very much, and a lot of word that I've heard about him is he's a really, really good guard. Like he's going to compete. He's going to demand some, and I don't mean personally, just if he's as good as everybody says, he's going to demand minutes. That's going to be a must if he's what a great problem Matt Painter has coming into this next season, because he's got to figure out, the best for the team, obviously, but he's got all these pieces that are really, really good. And, we talked about it before we hit the air. ESPN has their new way too early rankings out, and guess who's number one in that ranking? Purdue jumped Houston for the number one ranking, and it's because of the Clough, Meyer, and Murphy additions to that roster, to an already really good roster that USA Today had at number 11.
Yeah, you go back to what you're saying about Jack Benter. To me, this isn't necessarily in their games, but he kind of reminds me of Camden Heide when, like 2 years ago, when he came off of his redshirt season.
Yeah.
You didn't really, me personally, I didn't really expect much from him because we saw him in like a game or two as a freshman, and he wasn't bad, but after that, he wasn't playing because he redshirted the season, and you looked at the guys they had coming back, and you're like, these guys are good. But I didn't really think about Cam Heide that much. And then he comes in, and by the end of the season, he's a huge piece off the bench that helps that team advance in the tournament. And it's like Jack Benter could be that kind of a guy where he's not one that you think about when you think about the loaded roster Purdue has, just because he's coming off a redshirt season. Mm-hmm. But he could make an impact and just be a better basketball player than what people are necessarily expecting from him. And it's going to be tough to find minutes on this team, but he's definitely a guy that even just in practice, being there, playing with these guys and helping them improve, he's just going to keep feeding that fire and feeding that pack to make this Purdue team really, really good. Because kind of like I said, practices are going to be hard. They're going to be intense. They get in games, and you can put anybody in there at any time. Minutes could be hard to come by, but you're going to get really good minutes from all of those players because they're going to value each and every one of them.
Yeah, and going forward past that, we were even talking about guys that Matt Painter and the coaching staff have targeted for 2026, and because after this next season, there's going to be some roster spots open. with Smith, Lawyer, and TKR all moving on from the Boilermakers after next year, there are some players that are pretty exciting to hear about, and their potential with coming to maybe, and not necessarily even that they're front runners. It's just they're being mentioned in their short lists of where they're taking visits. So, there's a young man, he's a top 20 recruit, Tay Kinney. He visits Purdue, and that's in the headline. He recaps his Purdue visit. The one top 100 ranked Colbin Landrew, you have done some research on him. Purdue's in his list. Like, these guys are all top 100s. And I think with the success that Purdue's had in the past few years, that's lending to these higher recruits going, hey, let's at least go see what that's about.
And I think visiting Purdue is a big deal. Like, I think if you can get a recruit to come and just visit your
Get them
school
on campus
as Purdue, yeah, that is a huge, huge deal. That's what we saw with Oscar Clough. Like, Iowa State was kind of the front runner for him. Everybody thought so. He adds Purdue to his visit list, visits Purdue first, and I don't think he even visited Iowa State. I think he just committed to Purdue
now,
right
in
away.
fairness, Iowa State did add a big man from Virginia right before Clough was supposed to come. Yeah. But I think Clough hit Purdue, his visit, on the same day or right before that guy from Virginia went to Iowa State. So
yeah, and I kind of just feel like Purdue probably has a good system as far as what they do with their recruits when they visit, and I'm sure it's a great time. And I think if you're a recruit, you can go there, then I think there's a good chance Purdue can actually get it done. I think their visit and their recruiting system just works really well that way. So it's good to see these type of guys that are visiting Purdue. They're not just considering, but they're taking the time to go out there and visit. So it'll be interesting again to see what kind of class they put together, because Purdue, if Oscar Clough starts at the 5, Purdue's going to start 4 seniors. Oscar Clough has been the transfer, and then Smith, Lawyer, Chaikoff, and Wren.
Yeah.
And then they'll have some other experienced guys as well. I guess I don't know what Liam Murphy's eligibility looks like. Because I know Meyer obviously will come in as a freshman, technically, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. I want to say he might be a junior.
Might be. So he might still have a couple years. But either way, Purdue's losing 4 major pieces, if nothing else, after.
Unless the the court case allows 5 years of eligibility.
That is true. I guess, yeah, nowadays you never know what can happen. Guys pull eligibility out from everywhere. But
I mean, Mason Gillis hit the portal. He has no eligibility, but he had to hit the portal in case that court case came through and gave more eligibility to players. So
yeah. So, but
Julian
I guess
Reese
just
from Maryland too.
Yeah. Either way, with Purdue.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because they usually graduate 4 guys in 4 years, and they maybe hit the portal like what happened with Gillis and Morton. So the expectation, I think, is that those 4 guys will be gone after this season, which means you got 4 spots to fill with either recruits or transfers. And obviously with the portal, you never know what your roster is going to look like the next season. Purdue could lose 2 or 3 more guys to the portal next year. And I don't think it might be a surprise, who knows, but the point is that's just what happens these days. But when you can expect to lose 4 before the season even starts, I think Purdue's going to try and supplement that with a lot of freshmen. Because I think that's kind of just what they like to do when they know they're losing seniors, like they did last year with bringing in Jakari and CJ and those guys. So it'll be interesting to see who they go after. I think they'll definitely bring in some solid freshmen. They already have at least 1 or 2, I think, already committed for that.
I know there's Luke Ertl. I know of that one. I'm not sure of I think you're right, but I don't know what the name of the other player coming in. I know Luke Ertl is a senior in high school this coming school year, and he'll be a freshman in 26. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess all that to say, like, it was fun this year picking up some portal guys and these guys from out of nowhere that are just going to make a big impact next season. But it's also important to keep an eye on these freshmen as well, because just picking up some guys that have some flashes, but come in and develop under the system, like that's what the core of Purdue is.
Yeah.
And it's what's going to keep them successful in the future, is bringing in freshmen and developing them for 4 years into
Yeah.
what will end up being All-Americans in the case of Braden Smith and Troy Kaufman-Renn.
Yeah, we don't know. We could have two other All-Americans, or at least all Big Ten players sitting there fighting for one starting spot there with Cox and Harris. We also could have an all Big Ten guy with Benter, who we don't know what to expect from him. We know what we've got with the big three, but then we also know Oscar Clough is a big man that can do a lot of good things around the hoop and a little bit away from it. Then you look and say, oh, well, Omer Meyer, this guy could be Braden Smith, but 4 inches taller. I'm not saying he's going to produce exactly like Braden Smith, but you know what I'm saying is he can have that to where he grabs onto the game and he controls it, and he could drop 15 and then also distribute 12 assists, because he's bigger, So there's a lot of things that really get me going, because Meyer has 1 year to sit under and really start getting used to the American game. It is different than what the Euro style is, so there's gonna be a learning curve, and he's got a year to play under the best point guard in the country, and maybe even a player of the year candidate, because and what a way to learn American basketball, or at least that style of basketball, when it comes to dipping your toe. You don't get immersed in the NBA. You come back and you go, wow, I can learn under him for 1 year, get some good playing time probably too, and then next year I get to run that show.
Yeah, and like obviously when Purdue starts 4 seniors, like assuming Oscar Clough starts at the 5, they'll start
And
4
he may
seniors.
not.
Like, right, he may not. It could be Daniel Jacobson easily. But if say they did, like you look at that, like Purdue's going to lose 4 starters after this season, including 2 All-Americans at least, and these guys that have been key pieces of their program. You're like, they're going to struggle to replace those guys. Yeah, there'll be big losses for sure, but like, you got Omer Meyer, hopefully, Jakari Harris, CJ Cox both coming back, Daniel Jacobson, like
Yep.
all those guys come back. That's a good roster right there after a year of more of development. Like Purdue has really got this system down and this program down, where they're kind of reloading and supplementing with the portal a little bit if they need to. But like it's with these past couple of years, sometimes when you lose Edey, it just feels like Purdue, maybe they're losing it a little bit. They're gonna, that consistency is gonna drop, but this consistency has been better than anything in the country. Really, it's been pretty impressive, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of.
And whatever other schools say, it's Purdue, blah blah blah. It is to me the thought that we don't have rebuilding, at least in anywhere in the foreseeable next 5 to 6 years. We don't have a rebuilding going. We're just, like you said, we're reloading with good players, with players that have the ability to develop if they need to, or in Harrison Cox's position, contribute right away. And that's a great thing about this. This is, we've gotten to the point, and there have been some ugly seasons, off seasons, and then also next seasons after a good one that Boilermaker fans have had to go through, and it was considered a rebuild. We're not rebuilding anymore right now.
Yeah, this was like as much of a rebuilding year as we've had. And
yeah,
they still made a Sweet 16 and almost got a win over a 1 seed. They were, had ups and downs throughout the season, but it was a good season. Mm-hmm. Most fans of a normal basketball team would consider what Purdue had a very good season. And obviously that was kind of a down year for Purdue, if anything, compared to what they've done in the past. So it just is, it's one of those things where, as Purdue fans, I think we should be appreciative and not take it for granted, but also like it's very very impressive and very fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, we've got only 5 more months. But
Yeah.
that brings us to the end of the Friday edition of Boilermaker Lounge. Grant, next week or in the coming week or so, we're going to bring Dustin Schutte back in, and we're going to talk about the Lady Boilermakers and kind of how things have been going in West Lafayette with them. Coach Gerald's losing some players and some commits because of a pretty rough season. But she's also getting some other recruits to come in and getting hopefully a roster that's going to be able to rebuild. And unfortunately, the Lady Boilermakers are rebuilding right now after almost a virtual complete teardown of their roster. But Dustin, he's going to come in, and we're going to talk about the women's roster and forecast and what they've been able to do in the portal, even after they lost a few of their players from their roster from last year. But and then we've got more. We're going to start here before too long with our season profiles, our season recalls. I don't even know what we want to call them, and then also our special edition. Beyond the Rails, where we talk to former Boilermakers. Those will start up in the next few weeks, as well as we get them recorded and edited to where not where we're taking things out, but where we can break them up into a couple of different episodes. But really excited about what we're going to be able to do during this really long off season.
Yeah, no, definitely excited. There's a lot of different things we're going to be doing, and it's going to make for good prep for next season, but also just fun content for Boilermaker fans, no matter where you're at.
Absolutely, we are ever faithful, ever true. That's why I'll talk all summer about it if people will keep tuning in. And but thank you so much for joining us on the Friday edition of Boilermaker Lounge. For Grant Flora, I'm Sam Springer. We'll talk to you on Monday.